Okay, we got another question. Here we go. How do you deal if you have to develop a new project that design engineering has to comply with ISO, IEC 2719 or NERC, but management is not necessarily on board with securing manufacturing or investing in further security processes because of the associated cost, effort, resources?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that
It's a risk
so
management issue, I would say, right? You have to explain what the possible implications are
exactly.
if things are not done. And then they can actually see some real dollar bills or some real euros that are associated with the cost of not doing anything.
Exactly.
Basically this is basically insurance. You can almost think of, right? It's a cost. It's not a profit center. Unfortunately, security is just not.
Nope.
But it does.
And
Go ahead.
and NERC did everyone one big favor, and it's not always seen this way. Is it put teeth to their standard?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone knows the $1 million per day per incident kind of high watermark, and I think Greg, you put it exactly right. Listen, this is what we risk. Here's what we know it to be the direct cost of implementing such change. Here's the cost if we don't implement the change. So it's not an ROI conversation. It's really is a TCO conversation, right? Here's our two cost options. How do we measure against each other? Are we willing to pay $1 million per day per incident if we don't do this?
And the executive team and et cetera, they're more in line now with the concept of risk than they used to be, right? So,
Absolutely.
saying breach, saying ransomware, all that, focus on risk itself so that they can then put that quantified risk percentage in their head as to, okay, how am I really willing to roll the dice on the brand taking a significant hit and the PR mess that could come from a particular breach? Maybe it would be better to spend some money and avoid all that.
Yeah, and I think last year really did a big benefit to almost everybody in specifically the OT security roles, and that we had finally some big publicized incidents, so that the threat modeling came less theoretical and more of here's some practical, JBS, Colonial, we Oldsmar, Florida. We have all these really well-known OT or OT related security incidents with direct costs associated. So it's no longer the theoretical. It's really here's some organizations that were impacted. I could probably list off a dozen more if you really want to go through. Do we want to be in the same boat as a lot of these organizations? That's the risk we're taking now. And I think when you look at OT, the simplest question I ask, and this is something I continually is, and everyone should, to have some idea of this number is, what's it cost us to be down for a minute, for an hour, for a day? Right. So when you look at those costs, when you start modeling that, if we were down because we were impacted by not doing this change and we were down for a day, are we willing to absorb the loss at, $50,000 a day or $9,000 an hour or whatever it might be? But are we willing to absorb that cost? And now it becomes a truly, like Greg said, a risk conversation is, are we willing to accept that risks, or are we willing to invest X number of dollars to prevent that for the foreseeable future? So that to me becomes the conversation. And the other aspect of it is our job as security professional is to document, highlight that we've acknowledged the risk, but accept the decision and try to find ways to compensate for whatever the decision is, and try to keep always achieving that better risk mitigation strategy, really driving that but being the vocal proponents of, we should be doing this because I feel, as the guy owning security, I don't feel this is acceptable risk.